Hey, what's up, guys? David Glenn of davidglennrecording.com and theproaudiofiles.com. I'm excited about this one. I say that every time, but this is a stereo bus masterclass, we'll call it, David Glenn's way. This is not for everybody. My walkthrough, I've done it a little bit before, but I've got a few updates to it, so I'm going to kind of walk you through. I get asked this more than any other question. Hey, what about your two bus, your stereo bus? And I say it openly. I mix into a crazy two bus, and I'm gonna walk you through it. I'm gonna bypass some plugs, let you hear it. I'm gonna explain it, and you guys can make up your minds if you like it. If not, I don't care. It's totally cool. Find your own way, go your own way, and if you do, great. I hope that it inspires you to give it a shot. I love what it does for me, and I get some great results, in my opinion. So moving on from there, this is a taste thing. So jumping in, I'm going to hit play, and then I'm going to bypass and show you a walkthrough. But I'm not just going to bypass. I'm going to try to explain why I'm using it and what I'm using it for. So here we go. I'm going to hit play. Okay, cool. So to kick it off, I'm going to first say that I do a really detailed explanation of my busing, my routing, and all of that. I have a training course called the Mix Series. So I'll give a little plug for that. You can go over to davidglennrecording.com/the Mix Series, and you can check that out. But the gist of it is, in my mix, I take every single track. So like I've got kicks going to a kick level, and that goes to all drums. If you scroll down, the snare goes to all drums. The toms go to a toms bus. I treat them that way, and then they go to all drums. Bass is going to parallel compression, and then that goes to low end. The music pretty much all goes to all music. Any high end elements like hats, cymbals, swells, rev swells. If I'm working on an EDM track or something, and I've got high swirly stuff, then that's going to a high end bus. And those are down here. You got all my vocals and stuff. That goes to all vocals. Excuse me. So any tracks or tracks that I send to buses, those buses, they all meet at one of these right here. These are my pre-stereo buses. And so all vocals, all drums, percussion, low end, all music, high end, and all effects. There's a more detailed explanation, like I said, in the training course of why and what and how I'm treating them individually with compression and so on. But it's important to see that I'm compressing the music before it hits my stereo bus a little bit. I'm doing some imaging, some EQ there. I love this Kush Audio Clariphonic. I'm using that a little bit now. The Slate virtual bus compressors. I've got the FG Red on my drums. Sometimes it's a Studer, sometimes it's both, sometimes the L2007. It depends. Anyways, this is where I've got control over those elements coming through before it hits my stereo bus, so that's worth mentioning. But then all of those hit the Submaster, which is my stereo bus, my two bus. Just a name I learned back, it was like Pro Tools 5 expert certification deal that I did, Pro Tools 6 maybe. Okay, moving on. This video, the stereo bus masterclass, I'm going to put that over here for a second, and I'm going to pull open, actually that is the first one in the chain. So this song is a live gospel track from the artist Javis Mays. The song's called Greater, produced by my really good friend David Outing. Super stoked to be working on their record. We're doing incredible stuff. Really proud about the teamwork that we've got going on, the collaboration. I'm kicking it off. Why I say that is because we've referenced some mixes by my new friend, and super excited to be connected with Salvo out of Nashville. And he's mixed for Israel. You Pensados fans, he's Israel. I say it wrong every time, but Israel Houghton, I believe, performed on the Pensado Awards with Matt Maurer and Aaron Lindsay back on the keys. So shout out to those guys. Great stuff coming out of their camp. But we referenced mixes by Salvo, produced by Aaron Lindsay. And whenever I compared my mixes to his, I noticed that I felt like his were wider And so I've heard and seen guys using the S1 on their stereo bus. So sometimes I'll use that on my music bus and I'll automate it and I'll turn it on and off to get wider at the hook. You guys have seen that when you see my automation series. But the thing I'm doing now is I'm putting it on my 2 bus and just kind of nudging it up a little bit. Sometimes it's 1.05, sometimes in this case it's 1.15, sometimes it's a little bit wider than that. Just depends on what what the track is calling for and what I'm referencing, so that I can make sure that I'm in the ballpark of the width that we're trying to go for the song. So first thing up is the S1, and then I'm using the Blue Cat Patchwork because I wanted to also include an instance of the FabFilter Pro Q, and you can see I've got it in mid-side mode. And in this case, I've got a really big low end. I've got subs and kicks with lots of sub in them. So I'm not doing too much on this, but on a pop song or country song, I probably wouldn't have my my low cut high pass filter set so low. They would probably be up a little more towards 30, 40, 50, probably, around there, maybe even 60, depending upon the style of music. But pretty much what this does is it gives me control for my mid low cut to be at 20, because we've got so much sub frequencies, so many sub frequencies in the kick and bass, and I want that to be central and keep it in the middle. But then for the sides, I don't want so much of that, so I've scooped it up to around 30. Not that big of a deal in this song, like I said, but this will give me the flexibility to slide either of those up according to the mix. So those are the first 2 plugins. The second one is really critical. This is the Studer A800 from UAD, and I've got this dialed in. I've got my own little setting here. You can take a look at that, but it's pretty much just a gentle input, boosting the output for matching the volume. And that's it. Just this thing just gives it's a little bit of tape saturation, gives a little bit of color, and I love what it does. If I showed you the mix before and after in stages, this is kind of a big deal. So we'll walk through it, and then I'll go through and bypass each one. Next up is the UAD Pultec, and this generally doesn't get touched. I usually don't put any EQ into my mix. I like to address any equalization issues in the mix and within the buses themselves, the all music, all vocal buses. But whenever I bypass this, they modeled the transformers, if I'm saying that correctly, and it does something awesome to the track. I love what it does. Moving on from that, it's the exact same concept. I don't do any compression with this, but this is the UAD LA2A Gray. It's my favorite compressor that they make. It's absolutely insane. I use this on tracks all the time just for color, just for fullness, and then I'll print it. I do a pre-mixing session where I do some editing on drums, auto-aligning of the phase, and that kind of stuff. And this would be this and the Studer would be something I would process to those tracks before I pull them into a mixing session. I put it on the 2 bus. Almost always leave it on. I love it. There's no compression. I just make sure that I'm careful about how much gain. Gives it a little color, and I like what it does. It warms it up, fills it up, and it's beautiful. Goes without mentioning that I've got the Slate VBC. How I've got it is the FG Gray, the SSL emulation up top, and that has no compression. That's ratio is set to 1, so there's nothing happening. It's simply for color. It does a great job at what it does. I use it for compression, like I said, in the all music. So again, none of these so far are really doing too much compression. It's just the Studer hitting it a little bit for that saturation. From there, I do use the Mu, the FG Mu, for compression, but I'm barely kissing the needle, as you'll see in a minute. And I dial that in. I'll crank the threshold so that I can really see some compression happening. Dial in the attack and release. I do use the high pass filter, and I set that to like 85, between 75 and 100 usually. And then I back that down to where it just kind of kisses the needle a little bit. But I'll bypass that, and again, you'll see a huge difference. Conceptually moving on, I use Ozone. This is probably where we get this EQ. I just pulled up in a preset Dave Pensado mentioned. I like what it did. If I bypass it, I miss it, so I leave it on. I mix into all of these. That goes without, I have to say that. I mix into everything here from the very beginning. These are not things that I kind of bypass and then pull in as I'm mixing. These are in place from the beginning. I mix into it, love it, saves me some time, and I like what I get from it. The same thing with this harmonic exciter. I'm 100% in the box, so I like what these do. Not much to explain there, but I've got the oversampling on, and I'll play with that from time to time. But for the most part, this stuff stays put. This is where things get really, you have to pay attention to. The beginning of my mix, I will throw the threshold all the way up on my multiband here. I'll do a rough, kind of get things where I like them, with levels that, where I like it, where I feel comfortable. And then I'll dial down the threshold until I get an appropriate amount. And I say that because I've kind of reversed engineered this preset that Dave Pensado mentioned on an ITL. I can't remember what preset it was, but I'll look that up for you guys. But you can see here that it called for 3.2 dB of makeup gain. So go figure, I figure around 3.2 of reduction is what the preset was aiming for. So what I'll do is I'll kind of dial that down and I'll listen. Usually I'm only at like 1 or 2 dB of reduction now, but sometimes I'm as much as 4 or 5. And that just happens to be what I like per the mix and using my ears. So dial in the attack, the release a little bit sometimes. For the most part, they work well. Same thing for this. This has got 4.5 of makeup gain, so I will go in and I'll kind of feel it out and see how my mix is reacting to that. I do this setup generally just after I get a rough mix in. I spend about 20-30 minutes doing a rough mix, and then I'll go to this and kind of set this to taste. And moving on from there, I go into the UAD ATR 102. If I take this off, I miss it, I pull it back in, and then I'll dial in the settings for drive. We'll go through that. This right here is a step in and of itself where I get to the end of my mix. As I'm referencing, I'll hear things that maybe, well, let me say this. I'll mix it, I'll reference while I'm mixing, and I try to do the best I can to my ear to between speakers, headphones, Dropbox to the iPhone, to pick out frequencies where I differ from the reference tracks. In this case, I used an Israel Houghton song. Houghton, gosh, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm butchering his name. I always do. But I'm referencing, I'm tweaking the mix, I'm referencing, tweaking the mix all day, all kinds of stuff to that. And then at the end of the process, when I'm getting towards the end of my mix and I'm happy with it, what I'll do is I'll pull open the Ozone and I'll do the snapshot EQ. So I come over here, take a snapshot of his song. In this case, I use his song called Jesus the Same. This song's called Greater. I'll take a snapshot of both of those. I'll come over to matching, and I'll use the EQ matching feature. And you can see that Salvo was kicking my butt, still had some extra subs that I didn't. There's a little dip at 100. Maybe I was pushing it a little bit too much. Some low mids. I mean, this is really gentle. And then I just, instead of, cranking it like that, I would just kind of add a little bit of oomph to it, kind of finish it off. And then from there, it goes into my Ozone 5 limiter. I've got the IRC3. I'll test this out. It usually ends up between 2 or 3. And I do that towards the end of the process because it taxes the CPU pretty good. And I dial that in for compression. So, and then the transient recovery is incredible. Excuse me, like throwing a transient designer back into, the back end of your limiter to add a little bit of that, the transients back in. Excuse me, been a long day. So anyways, that's a quick walkthrough. Let me show you. I wish there was a quick way to do this. Let's go through one by one. And let's hear the mix. So let's instantiate the widener. Very cool. So you just hear it. It just kind of pushes it, just a little nudge, nothing crazy, just to the outside of the speakers. Moving on, let's hear the A800. And I'm going to try to follow my buddy Bill Kamak over at Pensado Students, Pensadia. He mentioned in a thread about not breaking the, if I hit play and then say, here's on, and then here's bypass, I'm telling you, that's triggering our brains to look for something different. So instead, I'm going to try to follow his advice, and I'm going to hit play. And then so you got to look when I'm bypassing it at the, so you can hear the difference yourself without me telling you, hey, this is different. So let's give this a shot. Here's without the Studer. Very cool. So this one, we got a volume boost, but I think you can hear that it got a lot fuller. It gave it some balls. It gave it some oomph. And I really love what it does. So it's an incredible thing there. Like I said, I'm mixing to it, so I'm not level matching for what's coming out of my my other buses, but that's doing something great. Now let's hear the Pultec, UAD Pultec. Very cool. I think you hear that. I hear it. I think it's incredible, and it's even going to get better. Watch this. What happens when we we unbypass the UAD LA2AG, the gray. Right. So, like I said, I experimented. I loved it. Not doing any compression. This is just going through the plugin the way that they modeled it, and we're gonna move on. So here is the Slate VBC rack. I've got, remember, just the gray and the mu. The red is off, and this one's not doing any compression. This one is doing just a kiss of compression. Here's before. Yeah, so you hear the upper mids, they come just to life. Everything just gets clearer. Everything just gets beautiful, and I love what that's doing. So again, you can saw it. I don't even think the needle was moving on that one. Moving on to Ozone, this is going to be a pretty big difference as well. We'll leave it off and bring it in. Very cool. So we're getting some of that fullness back that maybe the Slate VBC left us hanging with. We're bringing some of that in. And then we're going to move on to the ATR 102. So this one for me is giving, obviously the tape effect. It's giving the nice Ampex beautiful color. I'm in love with what UAD have done with their plugs. But for me, it kind of levels things off a little bit. It compresses it to just, tames things. It helps bring up some level on some things, knock down a little bit of the kick and bass from being too powerful and in the middle. I think it's doing a great job. I think it fits with the sound, with the direction of having a finished master. That's probably worth saying. I master all my own songs, and this is pretty much how I do it. Very rarely do I pull it into another session where I'm triggering it there. This is my mastering chain. This is what I'm doing. My clients have gone to me for mixes and masters. That's how it's worked. I think one song of the last 3 years has been sent out to a proper mastering engineer. And I'm not saying do it this way, change everything you're doing, stop using mastering engineers. I think mastering engineers serve a great purpose. I think that there's an incredible role there for them. I just think that for me personally, the role of a modern mastering engineer to take on things like multiband compression and the EQ and all that kind of stuff, I want to be responsible for that. I want to learn. I don't want to have a crutch in a mastering engineer. I want to learn and give the best darn mix that I can possibly give, mastered or not, ready for iTunes. And for people, especially my clients who are not, major label clients, going to, the top mastering engineers at Sterling Sound or Bob Boyd or whoever, Chris Athens, give a shout out to him. My clients aren't going to those guys. So I'm what they have, and I've learned to do a good job. And I feel like this 2-bus helps me to save time a little bit, as well as give a great result by applying these techniques the way that I have. You saw the mastering, you saw the EQ matching that I did, this Ozone 5. Let's do a before and after of this one. Very cool. It's subtle, nothing crazy. I'm not allowing it to be anything too impactful. Just a nice little taste of some balancing of those frequencies. And then last but not least, the the limiter. So let's hear this one come in. Okay, cool. You saw me move my mouse over the gain reduction meter, telling you how much reduction was going on there, because when I reference, I'm hearing what I need to hear. I'm not necessarily paying attention to that, and then looking at it is kind of frightening. But I like the way it sounds. I love what's going on here, and I use iZotope Insight for RMS levels or LUFS, whatever. I love Ian Shepherd and everything that he does over there. I've actually got his Perception plugin that I'm going to be doing a kind of a feature on, and how I'm using that, and it's going to be incredible. That just has changed everything for what I'm looking for in a final mix and how I hear things. But there you go. David Glenn Recordings Stereo Bus Masterclass. I hope you like what's going on. Nothing too crazy. I call it the Crazy 2-bus, but honestly, like you saw, it's a little bit of color, a little bit of tone from multiple plugins, doing very little, and it's got results coming my way for people that are liking it. Clients are coming and coming for more. So I hope you dig it. If not, tell me why in the comments. If you love it, tell me why in the comments. Don't feel free to message me at david@davidglennrecording.com. And then be sure to check out the products and training courses over at davidglennrecording.com, and of course the proaudiofiles.com for incredible stuff over there as well. So I hope you loved it. We'll catch you guys on the next one.